Mike again. Hello and welcome. 4 days ago, Conspiracy Taboo posted this video of a segment of an experiment with bromide gas. Let's listen to the claims he makes.
Root mean squared velocity of bromine gas at room temperature can be calculated at around 200 meters per second. Lonnie can demonstrate that by allowing bromine gas to race down this.
Okay, it's a little bit slow. It is only about 30 seconds or so, so let's just run through this nice and quickly. Gas is in one, so then he opens up another tap and it allegedly, now there's a kicker for you. This generally moved at 200 meters per second. Why, when you open it up, did this not meet that very quickly? Let's just go back just before that point and have a closer look.
At 200 meters per second.
That doesn't look like 200 meters per second. In fact, as the two equalise, surely the gas flow has to slow down. So let's look at some real world examples and just see what we can see. And see if we can come to any kind of reasonable conclusion as to whether the gas would be sucked up like Mega Maid. My old favourite, of course, is to look at weather maps, because the weather maps have things like, well, measured isobars on them. There's a network of sensors all over the country. Get the ones out at sea, they do have little floating stations out there as well. They're all meshed back together, all the data, their location, date, time and information they all send back is then transferred onto these maps. Now please check the date, 23rd Jan, that's today. There's a cyclone forming up here, you can tell by these very close lines. Down here you can see the lines further and further apart. So when you see lines close together, basically means that the transition of pressure is quite quick and there's going to be a lot of wind. So these do generate winds. This one's expected to reach about 155 kilometres an hour. This is 1017 to 996. The breezes that we are copying here in the area where I live, we're getting gusts probably up to about 80 kilometres an hour. They're quite short bursts, and they actually do break branches of trees. We've had much stronger winds more consistently, and they have broken whole trees recently. So this is not, the expected thing. So here we've got an example of a very small differential between 98 and 996. The smaller the differential, the slower the airspeed between two locations. That's basically it. As those two items back in the previous one showed, once they got to that certain point, let's just roll it through again.
As he opens up the
valve and
other flask.
Let's watch it now again.
At 200.
Now, have a look at that. It's just started to work. And like any system, the pressure in this one will equalise the pressure in this one. That means this is no longer moving at 200 meters per second. It's slowing down, down. Once you reach a differential that is almost zero, you get no more flow. And that leads me on to something about Mage II by Mr. Sensible. That one really gives us a better picture here. If you have a think about what Mr. Sensible sent up there, you have pressure sensor cameras. I'm interested in pressure sensors for this. Now, when it went up, a fair way up, this Pascal reading was very small. When it got back to the ground, it was 1001.23 pascals. So if you're reading that in terms of hectopascals, you would read that as 1001 hectopascals. And as it went up, you can see from the graph there's this constant gradient all the way up till it's practically zero. I think the reading at the top end of that was anywhere of about 100 pascals, about 1,000 for what was there. So kind of tells me that there is no upward draft as a result of pressure differential. So we know that's not happening, otherwise every cloud in that picture will be flying up as well. So it does lead to an interesting thought. If that was going that way, every cloud would just run up and then you wouldn't have clouds sitting there, they'd be gone. They just keep going up. So I guess what I'm going to have to say is one last thing. This instrument that you can see the face of is this one here, and all it does is measures the altitude pressure, and then converts it back to a reading. That's all it does. Inside these machines, this is a really old one. Mage III used the modern electronic solid state pressure transducer. These use aneroid capsules. Aneroid capsules are two plates of metal that have been shaped and welded together in a vacuum. So when you take the vacuum off them, they crush from the air pressure on them. They stack several of them together to give you mechanical advantage. Then they build a series of sectors and cogs that drive from a linear motion to a rotating motion. That's it. That's all they do. And they've been set up so that the linear motion to rotational motion is then calibrated to give you feet. In this case, it's pretty old, so it's feet. The new ones, of course, give you meters, and the solid state ones, well, they don't even need the aneroid capsules anymore. They use radars. They can use a solid state transducer. They can use other things. It's usually solid state transducer or an aneroid capsule. That's the dominant way these things work. In a later video, I'm going to pull that apart and people can have a look at it. So what sort of conclusion will we come to? We're seeing three things that don't agree with the pressure differential. We've seen a measurement of the actual atmospheric pressure. We've looked at an instrument that relies on that gradient to tell the people flying an aircraft what altitude they're at. Nobody seems to be getting affected by an upward draft of this magnitude that they're talking about. And the only reasonable conclusion I can come to here is I don't believe that that's actually going to happen. The atmosphere is not going to be sucked out like Mega Maid, so as funny as my thumbnail looked, the conclusion unfortunately is not it's Mega Maid. Last thing I want to say, can't help myself, I just got to do it. New improved snake oil, you can't do without it. Let's face it. That's all we're being sold here. Someone's just saying things, and I don't believe they've really thought this through. Adam, put more information in your videos. Make it clear where you got stuff from. I reference all of your stuff, reference everything you've got. Let us see your sources. We might take you more seriously. And that's it from me. Have a good night.